I'm very happy to see, Stugotz, that we have here in the building of Meadowlark Media, we have gotten somebody, and it's got to be one of the worst jobs in America. You've seen these shows that are worst jobs in America, and some guy's spending 8 hours, cleaning up shit in the bottom of the sea, like human feces, because he's got to fix a pipe. And
it's a bad job.
Yeah, just terrible, terrible jobs. But I believe we have given here, I don't know who has it, a Meadowlark Media member, the worst job in the company.
Do you think that job pays well, though? It should. It should pay well, right? For the person willing to do that?
It should. And I'm going to read some stuff
I agree, it should.
That this person is going through. But one of the comments written to the show, often wonder when African-American people will preach having a father in the house would be more important than listening to cop-killing rappers without dads that preach gangs and dealing drugs.
Is that guy?
I really don't want to hear L.A. weed stories. You guys are some L7 squares.
Is that guy?
Confirmed.
What's that mean?
I don't know what an L7 square is. Forgive me for falling out of whatever demo you have to be in to know what an L7
Roy, whatever you're
square
doing is not helping, okay?
Well, what you do is you take your thumb and your index finger, you make a 7, and the other hand, you do the same thing. That's the L.
Diamond,
so
though. That's throwing up
that's
the
a square.
rock.
A rectangle?
Well, it looks like a rectangle, but that's what they mean by L7.
So it's like the All-Star lyric. Take
With
your
the
finger
shape of an L on
your forehead. You take your finger and your thumb, the shape of
So
an
I'm
L
a
on your
double
forehead.
loser. Well, we
Exactly.
are, though.
You're square.
Did Woody send the tweets?
Roy held up his fingers in what is not a video enterprise today to explain to the podcast audience what he was the only one who knew what it meant.
Well, I was explaining it to you. I was hoping that you would get what I was doing, but no.
Okay, so an L, you could
hurts.
put your fingers, your index finger and your thumb into two L's and put either of them on your forehead. So this guy has said he doesn't want to hear our LA weed stories. We are some L7 squares, confirmed. And also this person writes in, all these Super Bowl takes are horrible. It's a team game. No one bails out anyone.
Is that guy?
And the worst job in the company is sifting through YouTube commenter sewage. It's a terrible, terrible job.
Well, it's like also on Twitter, if you do like at LeBatard show and then you just look for the keywords, you're like LeBatard sucks. Just to find the like worst comments.
I am desperately out here, this libtard, trying to get Philadelphia's attention. You want to fight Philadelphia? I'll be the guy whose show says the thing. I am desperate to have a time in my life where we cared about Skip Bayless or Colin Cowherd said the thing about the Miami Heat or the Miami Dolphins, and I was enraged, and I fueled the ratings of Undisputed to record highs.
Here's what's funny about this one. You said the most obvious thing, that series could be very, very exciting. You'd like to see it.
But it's why I love what's just happened with Philadelphia, because they think I'm defending Ben Simmons. And I understand how you arrive at that appraisal. Sure, I'm defending, hey, just treat humans like human beings. That's my controversial stand, according to Philadelphia, because they don't want to. This happened with Brady, man. Stugotz, I don't know. I was alarmed by how Boston was like, no, we owned you. You were ours. You got to thank us. Like, I did that on billboards as a joke in Ohio with LeBron. Yeah. Boston was serious. Like, you work for us. You've got to thank us. What are you doing thanking the Bucks before you thank us?
But here's the problem with attacking Philadelphia, even though I'm there for you and I'm with you and I'll do it, okay? Here's the problem. We're blaming a city for something the coach and his teammates did. They're the ones who criticized Ben Simmons. The fans, of course, were going to follow suit after Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid came out after a playoff game and basically said he bailed on us. What do you want the fans to do from there? Doc should be more responsible.
Fans are going to be fans. That's not my point, right? My point, of course, fans are cruel in every market, although they have a reputation.
Yeah, but those fans don't need any help, and they got a lot from Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid.
Stugotz, they got a lot from everybody. Their team, after, again, I just painted the historical hand-me-down from generations pain of the Philadelphia sports fan. Your dad and your grandfather remember when the Sixers used to matter. They helped you become a sports fan, your grandmother, your mom. They helped you become a sports fan. And the Sixers have just spent, I mean, Stugotz, it was a decade of the representation of a team in a sport trying less than anyone else. You are a symbol for tanking, for quitting, for not even trying. We laugh at you because the process, the reinvented way that you decided to do the new math of sports was we're going to just be shitty for years and years and years and try and get the value in a salary cap sport, which is the top picks.
Yep.
The top picks that you can then put in the system. The ridiculous.
They were so close, man. Jason Tatum, they're there. I mean, they were so close to getting it right.
They were so close, but Hinkie was either a genius or an idiot, and his whole thing was, I don't know what I'm doing as a general manager because this is kind of unscientific, the picking of players. So I'm just going to be scattershot. I'm going to get an Okafor. I'm going to get Markelle Fultz. I'm just going to be scattershot, and I'm going to have so many picks because you've been laughing at me for 10 years that even if I'm shitty, I'm still going to be great. And they're not. They got Embiid, sure. You got one of them.
Right.
But look at what happened to the others. Look at what happened to Okafor and Fultz. Look at what happens to Ben Simmons.
They were the 1 seed a year ago. You know, they had that Kawhi Leonard shot against the Raptors. If that doesn't go in, perhaps they go on to win the NBA championship. But listen, I get what you're saying.
But they're still there, though, right?
Yeah,
because
they're still there.
One of those process picks was Ben Simmons, who they turned into James Harden.
Yeah.
So they have continued, which, by the way, the process ended when Sam Hinkie got fired, which he absolutely did. And they started to, the Colangelos took over and started to cash everything in, and all of their moves didn't work. They cashed in picks to move up to go and get Fultz. It didn't work.
That was a bad one. That was the one right there. No, had they just stayed put and taken Jason Tatum, they'd be fine. Ben Simmons would still be on the Sixers, and they'd be fine. Like, they would.
I agree, but they kept pushing it. They still have Embiid. Embiid and Harden is still a good enough team to go. Like, they've maintained enough. The Tobias Harris trade and extension, terrible. The Jimmy Butler trade didn't really work out for them. They didn't get much in return from him, and they still have a chance. And actually, if we're talking about the ratcheting up of this fan base and how sensitive they are and how much they go after everyone, the original sin there is the process, because they bought in so heavily. I think the most jubilant that they've been in the last 10 years is when they got the number 1 overall pick in the lottery for them to take Ben Simmons. Like, that's as excited as that fan base has been. And so they are so bought in. They've invested so much into this team that has delivered very little. And so they are absolutely on 100, and it's why they were so rabid in terms of going after Ben Simmons.
I am telling you, Stugotz, that one of the same thing that some of the same passions that get stirred in the cruelty of fan bases, and Philadelphia is known as a famously cruel fan base. By filing it under, well, we just really care about sports. We really care about this. We care about it better and more than your city, than you guys in Miami who leave Ray Allen's shot early. We care more about this. It's about regional identity. We've had about 7 movies made with Mark Wahlberg as a tiny Eagles player from the streets of Philadelphia.
Invincible.
Because it's regional identity. We got a statue to a fictional figure who represents what we believe our streets to be, that we can, from our rocky streets, we can birth a Rocky. Philadelphia. We booed Santa Claus and we cheered the paralysis of Michael Irvin. This is the history and the baggage that they have, and they care about this team. There has been a good deal of losing, Stugotz.
Mm-hmm.
And this team was the representation of a loser, so losery that the royal family name of basketball, the Colangelos, had to come in and rescue what was a blight upon the sports landscape. This team's not trying. Please, somebody go in there. Our Olympic hero, a Colangelo, go in there and please, with a janitor's mop, get rid of the last 10 years of the Philadelphia 76ers are losing on purpose.
Are the Colangelos the royal family of the NBA? I'm wondering. Like the Barrys have to be in that conversation, do
the
they not?
executive family is what
okay.
I meant. I didn't mean like a royal family on the court. I just meant what name in sports says executive more than Colangelo?
That's a great point.
That's what I'm saying. What name in basketball do you think of that just sort of rings like a song? Because I don't know, what did he have to do with the creating of the dream team? Like, doesn't it start there in the original?
Well, I think he's the head of USA Basketball, right? Jerry Colangelo, I believe.
But it's him and his son, though. Am I wrong about this? Because I may have some details wrong on the history of the Sixers and the top of their franchise. But regardless, my point is, this is the history that gets hand-me-down by generation from in a great sports city. Like, you can't dispute that it is a sports city where their fans care unreasonably about their sports. But that's not going to be great for the mental health of Ben Simmons when he's struggling. And it's not going to be great for me when I say how fun would it be to just have them hate each other.
Right.
And Ben Simmons now comes back for Embiid, and you guys thought I was weak, and maybe I was, because it certainly looked to everybody like I was frail at the end of an important moment of your process. But if he comes back strengthened with a support he didn't get, he felt, in Philadelphia or from that team or that city that made him flee the premises at the time because he didn't think Philadelphia was gentle enough. I'm talking about everything that was there that made him flee and not want to come back to practices. And they took millions of dollars. And maybe that's frailty. Maybe it's weakness. Maybe it's scared. Maybe it's cowardice. Maybe all of this hasn't been about mental health. Maybe it's just a scared guy, and these are tough moments. There's a lot of pressure, and he cracked.
Maybe it's just a bleep you. You think you can do it with someone else? Go ahead, try.
Okay, I don't know who's right on this stuff, but now he comes back with possibly a healthy Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, and good God.
Yes.
And good God, if that team is healthy.
But it's a big if, because I'll remind you that Harden, Durant, and Kyrie played 16 games together.
But it's a big if when you trade at the end of 12 years of player empowerment two knuckleheads, two quote-unquote knuckleheads for each other, because this is the diminished thing at the end of the machine burping out power, is that Harden and Simmons can just nuke everything. With 16 months of power in your franchise, they can nuke everything.
I also heard yesterday that Kyrie Irving is only eligible for 13 of Brooklyn's final 29 games because of vaccine restrictions, both in Brooklyn, in Canada. I heard Zach Lowe talking about there was a sideline report where the sideline reporter was going through international COVID vaccine rules because it affects Kyrie Irving's eligibility. But I think Ben Simmons probably felt the weight of the process, because he's the savior, right? He's the reward for all of it. And so from the moment he stepped on the floor, it was, you've got to lift us, dude. Like, our franchise is on you. That's a lot. And he's frankly gone to the only situation, I think, in the entire NBA where there's no pressure on him, particularly in the final 6 minutes of games. If Kyrie and Kevin Durant are out there, he doesn't have to do shit. Just rebound, pass the ball.
They'll take all the shots, right?
They'll take all the shots. They'll have all the clutch situations. He has no pressure on him. I don't think there's a situation he can go to that's better suited for his mental health, for his kind of desire to kind of step into the background in those moments. I think it can work great for just that reason. He's just got to be a great perimeter defender. He's got a ball handle. He's got to distribute.
He is all those things, though.
And step out of the way in the final 6 minutes.
Yep. It's going to be interesting. Man, you were right about Jerry Colangelo. This guy, he runs basketball. I mean, he's the director of USA Basketball. He's the chairman of the Basketball Hall of Fame. I mean, they are the royal family.
And his son was there. But
he's doing something with the Sixers.
Am I getting the details right when I say they were sort of summoned, please clean up this mess? Like almost virtually league appointed on somebody fix this, get Henke out of there. Somebody's got to run this better.
Well, they've actually cleaned up two messes. There was the mess at USA Basketball after we lost to Argentina. And then there was the mess in the Sixers. Yeah, I mean, it became a point where there was conversations about the league office having to step in. And it's funny because if Joel Embiid were healthy from the off, I don't think that would have been necessary. But he missed 2 years, and then year 3 only played 31 games. And so they continued to feel the bad team. Embiid was worth that. It was worth him missing 2 years to get Embiid. But yes, the league basically there was enough pressure put on the owner to where he felt like he had to make a decision, and also there was a lot of pressure about how the Sixers, when they went on the road, their tickets sold for so much less than anyone else going on the road because there's just nothing to see.
Stugotz, this part of it, how fragile all of this can be. The lengths that the Sixers have gone to try and disrupt the market by doing something more brazenly than had been done very much before. So brazenly that the Colangelos had to be called in asbestos suits to, like, please fix this. They saw a market inefficiency that was, if we don't mind enduring laughter for many years, that we're not trying at all, we will get an Embiid. And we've been watching all of this get to this moment. All of the work, the laughter, the trades. Markelle Fultz short-circuited, not unlike Ben Simmons, where he didn't want to seem to shoot either. Weird for a city to have two things like that, like two players that they took first. I mean, it seems like it'd be coincidence, but super weird that two top picks who were underachievers in college, two guys who didn't do winning in college, young men coming into the pipeline on fame, and everybody's moving fast, and Simmons is dating Kylie Jenner and trying to figure out life. How fragile it is when, if Joel Embiid hurts his knee and another season is lost, the closest that they got to all of that was, we had Jimmy Butler and Embiid and Simmons together. Like, we might have seen the precipice of that. They've traded a piece of young value in exchange for, this is all getting expedited now here. Whoop, fast forward, we are desperate. Not only that, we're going to send a shooter. We're going to send you picks. We're, for right now, it's Daryl Morey. We might have to blow out Doc Rivers with D'Antoni here soon because he knows how to coach Harden better, knows how to play a different style better. We might have to blow out Doc Rivers here, but it's right now. It's right this minute. We have to win right now. I can imagine why Philadelphia is a little scared. Like, as a region. Oh, wait a minute.
I mean, Ben Simmons could get the ultimate revenge here. Of course, they're scared of that scenario. But this is, and they know if they're healthy, the Nets have a better team.
The reason I don't know if they know that or not.
They know
believe it. No, fans can be delusional. Right. But what I would say to you, don't diminish how great that team could be. I'm just pressing on the button of, in daring to wish for that scenario in the playoffs, Philadelphia is mad at me. In daring to wish for those two teams to face each other so that I can watch that just like opening a book so I can get all the basketball soap opera stuff. And I'm watching two guys, Stugotz, you just never see these pieces in the transaction age traded for each other this way, where you're all looking at it and you're like, these two guys are the oddest of the most talented. They're, in many ways, the least trustworthy of the most talented. And they've just been traded for each other, and holy shit, did they both just get better? And holy shit, are they going to beat everyone in the league, or is it also going to fall apart? And may they play each other in order to get to the distinction of being dismantled by Milwaukee or Phoenix.
Philadelphia is mad at you because you want to be entertained.
That's right.
Well, and also that you might be pointing out that Philadelphia failed Ben Simmons. That it was somehow their fault, and their fault includes the fans. Yeah. Because, Stu, you mentioned the comments.
It starts with Doc, though.
It doesn't, though, because you don't think in that moment, I can go back and watch that play, the famous play where Ben Simmons hands off to Matisse Thybulle when he's right under the rim. I'm sure the fans in that moment were not too pleased with Ben Simmons. That was at the end of a series in which he was horrendous in fourth quarters, where I'm sure the fans had not been taken too kindly what Ben Simmons had been doing for weeks, probably for months and years as well. So the fans had their role to play in hastening Ben Simmons' departure. And at the end of it, if Ben Simmons beats Philadelphia in a series, you can point to those fans and say, it's at least partially your fault, and fans do not take kindly to that.
But their argument is absolutely... it's not that they don't take kindly to it. No, it's worse than that. They will reject it flatly and say instead, no, we were patient enough. Look at what happened at the end. We were patient enough. We tried to cheer his free throws. We were patient enough. But when you entangle all of these emotions, generational pain, generational laughter, generational pressure, and you put it all on Ben Simmons trying to figure out life, and all he's saying to you in this initial press conference when he talks yesterday is like, you can question it if you want, but I was in a really dark place for 6 months. Man, Stugotz, Jessica sleeps with her phone in her hand. Oh. I do not know the addiction that social media is at its height, but I would guess that being Ben Simmons with young people, as you see these reports, Stugotz, that today's young person in athletics, you see anonymous sources saying passive aggressive in the way they handle things. I don't know if Ben Simmons, living in the cruel, cruel world of the internet, in the space of addicted to feedback or energies, if he was reading anything during those playoffs, if he's sinking,
none of it flattering.
if he's sinking to the doubts of fear during the playoffs and now sees, oh no, everyone's noticing that I'm not doing anything in the fourth quarter. We saw LeBron be scared down here. You remember when he was whipping the ball around when he
I'll
realized
never forget J.J. Barea.
at the end against Dallas. We saw LeBron scared. That's LeBron.
Yeah.
That's LeBron. with the pressure of that whipping around the ball, whipping it around the court, scared, afraid to post up J.J. Barea because he realized he was about to lose to Dallas and he knew what was going to fall on his head.
I am stuck on the Colangelos here. I really am. And since you keep asking, I just want to clear up the air. First off, I wish my last name was Colangelo. It's a great last name. Like, you mean business if your last name is Colangelo. Okay?
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Do you mean business if your last name is Colangelo? But here, Jessica, help me with this part of it.
Well, I didn't clear it up yet.
I don't want to talk about the Colangelos.
Listen, you've asked a number of times. Jerry was hired to be the chairman of basketball operations by the Sixers. He hired his son, Brian. Brian was responsible for drafting Ben Simmons and responsible for drafting Markelle Fultz. They were doing just fine till Hinkie left.
Find a new slant. We don't want to talk about the Colangelos.
All right. Oh, Dan kept asking. I just wanted to clear up the air. That's all.
I did want to talk about, though, what Whittingham is saying, where he is saying the fans are to blame, or at least partly to blame, the pressure of that. And the fans are saying, no, that's what my ticket buys me. My ticket buys me the ability to put pressure on this person when I need him to perform for my feel good. But I'm asking you, with today's young person and an entirely different athlete being birthed, where you're watching even Kevin Durant fight with eggs on Twitter, I'm asking you, what do you imagine that was like for Ben Simmons at the end in Philadelphia? He fled to Stugotz. He fled while in uniform on the court in fourth quarters. He fled that city, and I can't imagine how dark that was for an athlete. All this muscled armor for an athlete, number one pick. I can't imagine how scared he must have been and how dark that must have been to have to run away from it all.
It had to be a very dark and lonely time. Like I have said a number of times with social media on the mentions, I just skip all the negative stuff and only find the positives, but I'm older now, so that's what I've chosen to do, and it's easy to do it as you get older. We forget some of these guys. Ben Simmons, you watch him on the court, you forget, hey, that's a 22-year-old kid. And so, yeah, if he's sitting in his mentions and he's reading what people are saying about him after a lousy playoff performance, I cannot imagine how depressed that can make someone be.
Even if it's something small, right? Even if it's just one comment out of an ocean of 1,000, you can still pick it out, and especially in that moment. And every facet and angle of your performance is broken down to where something's going to strike a chord with you. Something is going to hit in a place that's really sensitive. You talk about wanting to flee. He might have cost himself like $20 million in his desire to flee because he kept not playing, which costs you money in the NBA. Like he cost himself $20 million to just get me the hell out of this situation.
I think, Dan, what you're just describing, though, is like having empathy for him. And I think people really struggle having empathy, A, for people who make a lot of money to play sports, and B, for people that they don't really like or people that they view as having wronged them in some way. I think this like fan base in particular, and like we don't know what Ben Simmons was like towards his teammates. We don't know how he behaved behind closed doors. All we really know is how he acted publicly and not playing this season until he was traded. But like I still think for the small amount of information we do know based on what we've seen, he deserves empathy. Everyone does, even people who make decisions that we don't agree with or don't understand.
I also think that empathy is antithetical to sports and the way that we've experienced sports up until now, which, Dan, is what you've been talking about the last couple of days is this going to shift the paradigm? Are we going to change as sports fans because Ben Simmons is going to make us change as sports fans.
Oh, I think what you risk, though, is this is why I was asking Stugotz this the other day. What you risk is losing your fans unless they find some connections to the humanity in these players. Stugotz, I told you, the leagues are very different, and they have very different styles. I had this conversation with Colin Cowherd. It was about ESPN and Fox. The conversation we had is that ESPN was very much football, the NFL. Everyone can come in and out. The thing that matters is ESPN. Don't ever forget it. Fox doesn't mind basketball making its personalities stars. Will endure what it has to because basketball learned we're going to take the face masks off of the disposable players. We're going to present them to you in commercials. Magic and Bird are going to give you access to smiling superstar rivalry, sports feel good. Look, it's Magic, it's Bird. And Boston and the Lakers were beating each other up, and the Sixers snuck in there. And after all of this time, what's ended up happening is now you're seeing more of the humanity in all of these athletes, but they're younger. Ben Simmons is a child.
Right.
Like, what did you know at 22? I know you all think you want what Ben Simmons has. I know it makes it all easier. It's what you're supposed to want. I don't know whether Ben Simmons inside knows that he was meant to be a basketball player, or he just had the physical gifts and kept being pushed and now arrives in a place where deep inside him, he's unhappy with some of the choices that he's made. I don't know any of this. I'm saying that as he travels up the path, Ben Simmons is so young at the end of this, Stugotz, that you're kind of seeing all of it, and he'll only show you so much, even in these press conferences where he's shut down. He's just telling you the last 6 months were dark. I've got 1,000 questions after that. You know I'm the grief eater. Like, what dark what? Like, what was happening? Who do you blame? Can I get honesty here? But this is where it shuts down. We can only get so close to these guys because James Harden and Ben Simmons, they don't need the machine anymore. They're too powerful. They don't have to talk to the press that much.
When Ben feels like talking about it, he'll talk about it, you know?
But
on his own platform.
But if you go to the depths of it, though, yes, on his own platform.
Right.
That's exactly right. Or Draymond's or LeBron's or Clutch's or somebody's. Or in the barber shop, somewhere.
Just not yours.
Somewhere on his own platform as all of this changes. But
Yes.
that league birthed, you want to fall in love with these faces, these personalities. We love it still because of the soap opera, the narrative. Social media feeds this stuff. It's not even about Boston beating Philadelphia by 50 last night. By 50. It's not about that day to day. It's about give me the storylines, give me the juice. And now I ask you, as it relates to Ben Simmons, when I show you all of Ben Simmons, do you love him more or do you love him less? Because I think this loses a lot of basketball fans who are like, what is this?
But he can win them back because we love like an underdog story. If he goes on in Brooklyn, even with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, two unlikable guys, I'm sorry. But if he goes on and he beats Philadelphia and he plays well and he makes it to the finals and they win a championship, I think the country will find, not Philadelphia, but I think the rest of the country will find themselves rooting for Ben Simmons. It'd be a great story.
But I ask you this, though. This is the part I'm asking about. Are young people going to connect more to Ben Simmons because of this? Can it make him more popular to make him more human? Can young people feel some of his pain talking about his feelings because Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan led the way on this in the Players Tribune, and they fall in love with the new breed of athlete in sport who isn't necessarily LaMelo Ball, but is, frail Ben Simmons with a good story.
Dan, are there young people, young basketball fans who could imagine what it's like to be because they're always in their phones, always on social media, always reading messages and comments about themselves? Can they imagine the depression that he's going through after reading some of that stuff?
I don't think so, Stugotz, because I
don't think you're giving them enough credit.
But Stugotz, I was in the middle of it. The reason I'm not giving them enough credit is because I'm in the middle of it, and as I'm seeing it happen, I'm trying to apply empathy, but an athlete is scared on the court. This is all entertainment, and we make fun of funny things that happen around here. I don't have these details of how, Stugotz, how long? I told you, was it Chris Davis with the Orioles? You kept telling me again and again he's making a lot of money. All he's doing is striking out. Yeah. He's going out there every night and embarrassing himself, and you said again and again, he sleeps fine. He's got millions of dollars.
I did say that.
And but I think a lot of people, that's where the transaction begins and ends, and there's not a whole lot of thought after that.
Crush Davis.
I think what you're talking about is like simultaneously the young generation is as empathetic as we've ever been, but it's also meme culture. So like Ben Simmons during like that moment is as much of an NBA meme as we've had. Him handing the ball off when he could have had a dunk to Matisse Thybulle, who then went 1 of 2 at the free throw line. And I looked up his numbers, by the way.
You love saying his name.
does. He really-
you like saying
Yeah, I do.
Matisse'
It's a
name.
great name, and he's
Matisse
showing
Thybulle.
off.
And
Yeah.
it's a great. It's also a great detail for you to drop into the story to really tell people, look, you're putting them back there, and you're explaining to them Ben Simmons at the end of the game. He passed to this guy.
Nobody more stunned to have gotten that
Thybulle.
basketball than Matisse Thybulle.
I still remember Clarence Weatherspoon with only one only one play because of that. Because Jamal Mashburn seemed scared at the end of the game and sent it out to Clarence Weatherspoon.
So Ben Simmons, in his last 4 games of his time in Philadelphia in the playoff series against Atlanta, did not attempt a single field goal in the fourth quarter. So completely short circuits. But you're basically saying that, like you talked about Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan, you're basically saying like, and I sort of agree with you, like spill your soul so that I can empathize with you, because the current facade does nothing for, like, him answering questions well at a press conference. It's cool, but I kind of need to know like what you're going through in order to really empathize with it. But that's also an unreasonable expectation to place upon someone, which is just, make yourself incredibly vulnerable in front of America so that I can feel bad for you. Like that's an unfair expectation.
But it's worse than that, though. Because make yourself incredibly vulnerable with an America that is to be less trusted with that vulnerability than any place you can possibly put it.
We still hit Duncan Robinson over the head with his imposter syndrome that he told Ramona Shelburne about 2 years ago.
Like, this is a cruel... I'm not talking about YouTube commenters, though them too. I'm talking about just sports entertainment. We need stimulation. These people aren't human. It's all a video game. We're all in the simulation. And all we do is bash these guys for fun and content. And then when they're human, what? Then when they're human and they break under the pressure of it, we go on to the next guy to see if...
That's what I do, Dan.
And the next time they fail, that's the stick to beat them with, right? Is if you say, in pressure situations, I get really scared. Then the next time he's in a pressure situation and he does poorly, we know why. And we will beat you over the head with it over and over. That's like what I'm talking about, like the culture of sports. Like, vulnerability is not made for the culture of sports, both internally and externally.
Did we crush Mashburn when he passed up to Spoon?
Yes.
We did, right?
I still remember his name. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, of course, Stugotz.
The problem is it's Clarence Weatherspoon, and the problem for Ben Simmons is it's Matisse Thybulle. If he had passed to Embiid or perhaps
it
even
would've been
Tobias
fine.
Harris,
Yeah,
it would have been fine,
would've been
right?
No,
fine.
there's
So
no
this is
pass.
Thybulle's fault.
There's no pass in that scenario that he's standing under the
he could've
rim.
just dunked.
He's standing over. All you have to do is leap up and dunk.
It's such a funny thing that Whittingham says, though, about when they're honest with their vulnerability, because I'm pretty sure that both Sam Darnold and Aaron Rodgers have admitted at the end of a game to seeing ghosts, players who weren't there. I think both of them have called it seeing ghosts.
I believe Rodgers. I laughed at Darnold.
This is what I'm saying. We're all very excited around here. I can feel the energy. There's sort of a wonderful, creative radiance in the room, because as we talk to you right now, we are headed straight into historic, game-changing television, where Stephen A. Smith and Chris Mad Dog Russo, who Jessica is saying she's calling him Dad Dog Russo because he looks so good, like he's beautiful. I don't want to give away too much.
In the promo shots that we've seen.
He looks great.
So please.
Yeah. I'm nervous.
I have no idea. I haven't seen him yet. I don't know what he's going to be wearing. Zad Dog Russo.
I have called ESPN to find out what he looks like, and people at ESPN sources are marveling at how he walks through the room, and it's like he owns the place. That he has just walked into Stephen A. Smith's environment and he is ready for a revival. I've been checking in. You guys have to watch on television and wait. I've got secret access through the portals of the industry to get reports. And Mad Dog Russo is striding through the New York studios with a great deal of zeal. He's been reinvigorated. But we've got other breaking news right now from Andrew Marchand, that bottom feeder at the New York Post.
Oh, boy.
Who reports.
And you wonder why his stories are always slanted against you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do wonder.
He's got big breaking news, though, and I've got to salute him here. I've got to give him a lot of credit because it's not everyone that can have this kind of breaking news. On WFAN, he is reprimanding Jerry Recco for being such a fool to fall for the parody site Ballsack Sports.
I agree.
Who could ever do that?
It's impossible. Like, I mean, come on, it's Ballsack Sports, Recco. How could you possibly take information from Ballsack Sports and think that it's news? But Marchand is calling out Jerry Recco.
So is a D there. That's also another reason why he probably hates you.
Yeah.
I call him Marchand
Mm-hmm.
because you had an engineer in your early days of radio that had that last name.
How do you
But
say
it's
it?
Marchand.
Thank you.
But you get easily irritated by the smallest things. The difference between a D and a hard T there is so faint. And
You
I know
had such a hard D sometimes, Dan.
I have one
really-
right now. At the prospect of First Take coming on. And
Hell yeah.
I'll have it when it starts.